One of the best things we can do is create consistent daily routines, especially for anxiety. Because when there's consistency and regularity, it's very calming to the nervous system.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This is your host, Lara Jane, and I am here with Donna. She is a mindset and health coach, and I am so excited to talk to her because we have a lot of similarities in what we like, that inner unconscious part of our body that so much controls our mind and everything that we do. So I am really excited. She has a podcast, and it is called The Pleasure Project, and the link to her podcast will be in the show notes. And all of her bios and ways to get a hold of her are there also. So, Donna, I am so excited to talk to you. Tell me a little bit about this unconscious mind.
Yeah, so sometimes people call it unconscious, sometimes people call it subconscious. It's essentially the same thing. But basically, it governs 95% of our thoughts, feelings, perspectives, habits, choices, behaviors, almost everything. And then there's the 5% of our conscious mind that really is in charge of such a small percentage of the time. And this is the conscious mind is the part of us that sets goals and can understand things logically and intellectually. This is why sometimes we can understand something logically, but we don't really believe it, we don't feel it, and we're not acting from that knowledge. So the way that we can actually create permanent changes is to work with our subconscious mind, because when most people try to make changes, they're only using their conscious mind, and that only gets them so far. And this is why people get in their own way and self-sabotage and keep beating their head against the wall and struggle to make changes, and why it can be all or nothing or inconsistent progress and one step forward, two steps back. And that is all caused by your subconscious mind. One of the ways that I really like to work with the subconscious mind is paying attention to emotions. And this is something most of us, it's like the education we never got. Like, what do we do with all these feelings? How do we deal with them? And most of us learn pretty unhealthy ways of coping and dealing with our emotions that just create even more problems in our life. So that's one of the things I'm really passionate about, is teaching people what to do with their feelings, how to actually process them, move through them, and change them to feel better. And that's a big part of the subconscious programming as well, because our emotions are a part of the subconscious mind.
I think for me, I don't know that emotion is starting to creep up until it's right in my face. And then it's like too late. Now I'm panicked. Now I have no rational mind left. Do you have any tricks for identifying it before it's full blown in your face?
Well, that's the challenge, because often those thoughts are coming from our unconscious mind, so we don't know until we actually have the feeling. So I think the more that we can pay attention to emotions, the more aware we are, even when they're not so intense, like they're just creeping up. But I don't know, in terms of 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. So the challenge obviously is that it's unconscious, that it's beneath our conscious awareness. So I don't know that we can really stop it before it happens. However, I will say that you can change habitual ways of thinking. Like when we think of habits, we often just think about behavioral habits, but we can have thought habits, we can have feeling habits, and anything that we do repeatedly becomes a habituated response in our brain. And there's a neural pathway in our brain responsible for that thought. And because we go there so often, I think of it as like a super highway. So our brain just defaults to these certain thoughts, which create these feelings because our emotions are caused by our thoughts. So there are ways that we can actually change our thought habits, which will then in turn change our emotional habits. If you find that you're repetitively having certain emotions like anxiety or depression or stress, that is absolutely changeable.
Cool. So what is your process for identifying those? Like, how do I pay attention to that emotion and then start reworking it?
So we often will feel the intensity of emotion and we'll notice, okay, I'm feeling whatever the emotion is. So the first step is simply just to have that awareness that, oh, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling lonely, or I'm feeling anxious. And then the very quick mind hack for me that I like personally is, okay, drop into my body. Where is this in my body? Because emotions are actually a physical thing. We have a thought in our brain and it creates a rush of neurochemicals in our body, which we experience as different sensations and vibrations. So sometimes we might feel like a heaviness in our chest, or like a clenching in our jaw, or tightening in our belly, or like tense shoulders, or all these different sensations that come with those different biochemicals. Because the reason why we have emotions is to drive behavior. So those biochemicals are turning on certain hormones. And for example, stress response, all the blood is being sent to our limbs so we can either run or fight. And so that's the purpose that emotions actually play in our lives, to actually get us to do something to protect ourselves, to survive, essentially. So if you can stop the thoughts, and the way you stop your thoughts is simply like feeling the feeling in your body. Because the reason why this works is because you're no longer thinking, and now you're simply noticing, you're observing. And that's a different brain state that you go into. And you're no longer reacting to the feeling, you're just now observing the feeling. And each thought, each wave of biochemicals only lasts 90 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Which is not that long when you think about it.
We can do that. We can do
absolutely
anything for 90
do that.
seconds.
Exactly. But what happens is it doesn't feel like 90 seconds because we keep thinking thoughts. So every thought creates a 90-second wave. So we have wave after wave. And this is why sometimes it can feel like we're stuck in an emotion for hours or days, or maybe even weeks or months or years. But if you can interrupt the thoughts by doing something else, and I can share some other tools if that doesn't work. And I had to teach myself to do this, because as humans, we're hardwired to move away from discomfort and pain and towards pleasure. And so a challenging feeling is painful, it's uncomfortable. So our instinct, our impulse is to distract, like to try to move away from it. So this is why we get into unhealthy coping mechanisms, whether that's drinking or overeating or picking up our phone or even busying ourselves in some way. It's a way to avoid feeling what we're feeling. But when you can understand, okay, this is just a 90-second wave of sensations, I can handle this. I can just feel these vibrations. I mean, we do things that feel uncomfortable all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And we do it willingly. I mean, I think of people that run marathons. I don't, but we do cold plunges, we exercise, we have babies, we willingly do things that we know are painful physically, but we do them because of what we'll get on the other side. So what we get on the other side of being willing to feel our feelings is feeling like we have a little bit more control over them and our minds and our lives, because they play such a big role.
How do you recognize where in your body that emotion is? Do you do a body scan? Do you do... Okay, so walk me through that. I want to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, so the way that I do it, like I said, I had to teach myself to do this because it's not necessarily natural for us to do that. It's natural for us to do the opposite. But as evolved humans, we have the ability to do it. It just takes some practice. So when I was teaching myself to do this, I would have to sit down in a room by myself, close my eyes, because that allows me to just focus all my attention inwardly. And for me, it was helpful to just put a hand on my chest and a hand on my belly. And that gesture did a few things. Yeah. For me, it was really a reminder that, okay, we're focusing on the body now. This is not about overthinking. This is not about trying to figure out why I feel the way I feel and all that stuff. It's simply observing my body and noticing how it feels. So with my hands on my body, I close my eyes and then I move my awareness down. And it's like you're just looking for the sensations. And just asking yourself the question, where is this in my body? You will start to increase your awareness of where it is. And then you can just bring all of your attention to where you notice it. And when I'm walking my clients through this, I'll often talk them through it and I'll say, okay, where is it? Does it have a shape? Does it have a weight? Is it heavy or light? Does it move or is it still? Is there a texture? Is there a color? All these different things. And it's really, we're just getting so curious about how this feels in their body. And again, it's keeping their mind off the thoughts and onto their body. So then it truly does, after 90 seconds, that wave moves through you and then there's relief. You feel differently.
Is it 90 seconds to get rid of that sensation in your body also? So that will also go away?
Yeah.
Because my shoulders will get really stiff when I'm stressed. Like I just clench up. And now what? I've done body scans.
Well,
I've done those things. But it seems like it's there forever.
Okay,
There's that lingering residual.
Yeah. So when it's muscular like that, it doesn't necessarily always go away in 90 seconds because if you've been holding on for so long, for whatever reason,
That survival.
then it can take a little bit longer. But I'm talking more about like the biochemicals, like that, just different, the tingling and the tightness and all that. Sometimes when it's really intense, it might take a little bit longer. So then I'll do things like tapping. I don't know if you're familiar with like EFT.
I definitely know how to tap. And it works.
Yeah, it totally works. It's such a great tool. So EFT, there's other emotional regulation and like nervous system regulation techniques that I will use with my clients that if it's so intense, because there's very intense emotions and less intense emotions. So sometimes when it's extremely intense like that, we need to do something more than just sitting and observing. That can be too much for someone in like a very, very activated state. So we'll do something else like tapping or some deep breaths, or there's some visual things that I'll do with my clients that will get them to neutralize a little bit more. And then we can do a little bit more of that exploration. So there's so many tools. I think it's really about finding something that works for you. And there's so many to choose from out there. And more people are doing this kind of work, which is so great.
Isn't that awesome? Like it's making so much progress. I mean, everybody knows about it. Like maybe 30 years ago when you said, have you ever done tapping? I'd have gone tap dancing.
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking about? And I call them my woo-woo crowd. I had my corporate friends and I had my woo-woo friends. I still have them. That's not past tense. But there's so many more that you would put in that woo-woo category than there was 30 years ago. And you don't feel stupid in the office tapping something out anymore. That's just letting it go.
No, I think it's like we recognize how important it is to regulate and to de-stress and all those things because we're seeing how much suffering it causes in our lives and how detrimental it is on so many levels.
And there's so many corporate people out there. And it used to be everybody was in an office and you had these closed doors. And now that's this open community. And I know people feel odd going through some of these exercises, like when you're tapping on your head or you're doing a weird breath. And I call it weird because you think you're being weird at the time, even though it's just a cleansing breath and you're releasing stress. Do you know a secret way of doing it?
Yeah, one of my favorite techniques, it's called peripheral vision. So we can do it right now. And listeners, you can do this right now. So find a point in front of you to focus on and just something that's not moving. And so if you're looking at a screen, like right above the screen,
I'll look at the camera.
Yeah. And then without changing the direction of your eyes, so your eyeballs stay straight ahead, you're going to soften your focus and begin to widen into the periphery. So you're just starting to take in everything coming in through your eyes all at once. And imagine you could even wrap your vision back behind you and even just notice what's happening to your nervous system as you're doing this. And it's like you're just taking everything in. You're not looking at anything in particular, just allowing all the colors and shadows to just...
I moved to a sense of just being instead of doing. I don't know if that makes sense. But instead of like, dun, 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 gotta do this. It's like all of a sudden like, oh, I can just experience this.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is when we're in a stress response, we go into what's called foveal vision, where our vision narrows. And it's because we have to focus. We got to fight. We got to run, whatever it is. And so when you do the opposite, it turns on your relaxation response. And you basically are communicating to your body, you're safe. It's all good. You can relax. And so I love that because for me, it works so quickly. I can really feel that shift when I do this. And this is something that you can do with no one will even notice that you're doing this. If you can just look ahead for 30 seconds and not move your eyes around, you can do it.
You could even keep your hands on the keyboard and nobody would know that you weren't just staring at your computer trying to think something through. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one of my favorites because it also just works.
You could even pull over driving or any place. It would be appropriate in any situation.
Exactly. And for me also, just the body awareness, that's something that you can just dropping down and noticing, okay, where is this in my body? Or even just feeling your feet on the ground and feeling the space that your feet take up and feeling the weight of your legs, feeling your seat on your chair and bringing your attention to different body parts. And the other reason why I like the peripheral vision is because when we're in our head and we're in an intense emotion, we're so focused inward. But that shift of looking out and focusing on what's outside of you, that change is also why it's so effective. So just shifting where your attention is and what you're focusing on will change your emotional state.
That's awesome. Definitely. I've never used that one technique about the peripheral vision. So that's really cool.
Awesome.
We're going to take a quick break and just let our sponsors have a quick word. And then when we come back, Donna, how about you tell us a little bit about your yoga practice and what got you into that and the motivation there. So quick break and we'll come back.
This podcast is sponsored by Lara Jane Coaching. You know you're ready to silence your inner bully voice. Let Lara Jane support you with coaching. To schedule an introduction call, go to larajanelayton.com. And we're back. Thank you, Donna.
And it really interests me in your yoga. I know my husband and I are certified yoga instructors also, but it's not what we think in this world, the Western world. It's way more in the breathing techniques and those meditations. So I just was curious about your background and what got you into it. And I know you said 20-something years you've been doing yoga instructor.
Yeah. My parents, they were into yoga when I was young. So I remember going to my first yoga class when I was, I don't even know, I was probably like 5 or 6. I was bored out of my mind, but they had like all these yoga books and I would flip through the books and I would look at the different poses and try them. But then I didn't really do any of it until I went, like right after college, I lived in New York City and I went there to pursue dance and realized that that was not going to happen. So my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, he used to go to a gym where there was a yoga studio right above it. And he one day came home and was like, you should check out this yoga studio. It's right above the gym. I think you would like it. And I went and I loved it. And because I was a dancer, I was used to really just using my body and I had natural flexibility. It came pretty easily for me. And I was doing it and I loved it and I felt so good. And eventually I just really wanted to learn more. And the place I was going to, they had a lot of emphasis on the spirituality and there was meditation in every class and chanting and breath work. So I wanted to learn more about that side of it. So I took a teacher training and with no intention to teach, I just really wanted to learn more. And then I just started teaching right after and I love it. And I haven't really stopped ever since. And it's evolved, obviously, into so much. And we can always connect the dots looking backwards. It's like, oh, I can see how all these different things have played a part into what I do now and how I help people now. So,
yeah, I love that. I think I was a junior high, maybe a teenager, when I met my first family that did yoga and meditation. And like, you think meditation is sitting there in your little poses and not moving forever.
Right.
And that's what I assumed they did as a family, was sit around in their living room and did these, just nobody can talk now. And then you learn there's so many ways to meditate and there's so many ways to do yoga and all these things. That what a great exposure for a kid, because it really will teach them how to handle their emotions more than the rest of us that get shoved in our bedrooms and just told to cry it out or go on timeout instead of a constructive way to deal with it. It's like, she need to teach our kids better. I didn't teach my kids better. I didn't get into this stuff till they were out of the house. So now I have to backpedal and help them.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I think it all happens when it's supposed to. There's the divine timing with all of it. But I think the most powerful part of it is self-awareness, and specifically like self-awareness of what's happening in your body. And I think that's probably why the emotional piece for me really is about that body awareness and moving into where are the sensations and where do I feel it and what is that feeling like? And then just using the body in different ways to regulate emotions and to change emotional states, because it's all connected, the body and the mind. So you influence one and it affects the other, and it works both ways. So it's just additional ways we can feel like we have the ability to change our state using movement or using breath work or using just where we put our attention.
Yeah, almost anything that you do, like I am going to go for a walk, your mind all of a sudden switches to the walk instead of all the problems.
Right.
I'm going to tap this out. Your mind switches to the tapping instead of the problem. So that distraction is the number one piece. But then as you relax, it helps you to own it. The one thing is just distraction. And then I can own this piece and I can be at this piece forever. And that's the part that's fun, is to start experiencing those things not coming back as soon, because you now have the tools. I look at it as our bodies are these pressure cookers, and some of us just have the release valve on all the time. Nothing builds up. It just goes on. Others of it build it up a little bit and we push the release valve and then we feel good again. And some of us blow the top. So it's just, where are you in your self-care? Are you the one that leaves your vent open all the time? Or does the anxiety have to get to a point that it puts you in the hospital and now you're flat down and you're just releasing all that pressure at once? And I call it baby steps. I've got to learn to trigger that more often. I've got to learn, or you or whoever, to trigger that, let this steam off. And do you have, besides the couple little tricks that you've said so far with the tapping and the peripheral vision, are there other ways that you do for you to keep that pressure from building up?
Yeah, definitely. So I am an Ayurvedic health coach as well. So Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga, and it's really all about daily rhythms, daily habits, lifestyle, diet that's aligned with nature. And one of the best things we can do is create consistent daily routines, especially for anxiety, because when there's consistency and regularity, it's very calming to the nervous system. The nervous system, it's all about creating safety and certainty. So when we have things that we do every day, our body comes to just expect those things to happen. And especially if they're good things, it's something like meditation or movement, then we're bringing in these natural stress management, stress relieving practices into our day. And I love that analogy with the pressure cooker. So that was a big thing for me when I learned Ayurveda about 10 years ago, of just integrating these habits and having very intentional morning routines and evening routines that I know that I could just depend on them to feel better. And I know that if I start my day in this way, I'm going to have a better day. I'm going to feel more balanced. I'm going to feel more calm. I'm going to feel just better all around, physically, mentally, emotionally. So that is a process, and it is absolutely baby steps, like one little habit at a time, one little change at a time. But even things like going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, having your meals at the same time, just having that regularity, starting there, which can be challenging for some people, is, again, just that alone, not even necessarily changing what you're doing, just changing when you're doing it so that your body can find a sense of rhythm. And then it's about tweaking what you're actually doing, not picking up your phone first thing in the morning, not staying on it until the very last thing before you go to sleep, having some time where you're actually just taking care of your body and taking care of your mind, taking care of your spirit, and creating these rituals that really work for you and that really set you up for feeling good. And yes, when I coach my clients on this, we start super small, like a 1-minute meditation. If you've never meditated a day in your life, don't try to sit down for 20 minutes. Like, that's not going to work. You're going to hate it, and then you're going to not do it. So just 1 minute and then slowly building on it. Same thing with exercise. I start my clients with 7 minutes of movement, and then build on that. And that's how I created my habits, is just like small changes at a time. And now it's completely different than it was 10 years ago. But it's been a process of layering on these practices and continuing now adding little things into the day. So before I have a call, I'll do some like heart breathing, like heart coherence. Well, I'll just put my hands on my heart and I'll just breathe into my hands, and I'll just do that for a minute before a call just to relax and calm down and regulate. And it's great that I teach my clients a lot of this stuff because I get to do it pretty much all day long. I'm regulating with them. And
I love that.
Yeah.
So we are getting close to our time, and I love the routine. I love the idea of a routine, but there's all these surprises that always show up. And it's like, all of a sudden you have guests, or you have to go to do, and I use the word have to, and I don't like that. You're choosing to go to something, or these things show up. The concert doesn't get out till 11. By the time we get home, it's midnight, and I broke the routine. When those unusual things show up, how do we allow us to be outside routine and still have that peace?
Yeah. So I think, for one, the time when we have the most control in our day generally, not always, but generally, is in the morning and the evening. So that's the first thing. There's so many things that can happen in the middle of a workday or the middle of a day in general. The second thing I would say is that you need to know for you, what is the non-negotiable? What is the keystone habit that makes all the difference? If you let everything go except for this one thing, you're fine. You're going to be okay. So whatever that is for you, so you have a sense of what to prioritize and what you can just let go. Sometimes we can't do all the things, and that's okay. It's not about perfection. 100% of the time, it's about doing it most of the time. And yeah, allow yourself that flexibility to go to a concert late or to have guests over. And when I'm traveling, I don't do the same routine that I do when I'm at home. But I do know there are certain things that I want to make sure happen. So if I'm not getting a morning exercise, like an actual workout, I just want to make sure that I'm walking a lot during the day, or I'm bringing some sort of movement into my day. And for me, getting enough sleep is really important. So I prioritize getting to bed. Even if I'm on vacation, I really try to make sure I'm getting enough sleep. So I think knowing what you need to feel good and knowing what you can also let go of and you'll still be okay is also really important. And knowing that sometimes you have to be flexible, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. That never helps anything. There's no benefit to that.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, we have to not meditate for 10 minutes, but maybe it is just 1 minute, or not work out for 20 minutes and maybe just do a few stretches, whatever that looks like. Know how to adjust according to whatever obstacles arise or whatever different situations you're in, environments.
Right. We had a lot of tips, and I'm only going to be able to summarize a few of them here. So we're learning about taking care of ourselves, setting ourselves as a priority. If we are stressed and having a problem, feel the emotion and where does it lie? So we're focusing on the body instead of the thought to help let that 90-second wave go by. Then we had the peripheral vision, where you stare at something and then let your mind start to see the rest. We talked about routine and creating that and making sure that our bodies are comfortable with that. I'm going to meditate and I'm going to feel better. I have a son that says he's a exercise junkie, and however word he uses, but he will not go a day without doing some type of exercise. Now, if the day didn't allow him to do it, he will jump down and do 10 push-ups and be done. But this is what is my priority, is my physical health. And so finding that one non-negotiable so that you can put it in your life, whether it's always be to bed before midnight, give yourself the buffer. I'm going to go to bed at 10, but I will always be in bed by this time. And so you have that allowance piece that you talked about, and just those tricks that you had for the mind of helping us to refocus and move through it. So was there something really critical that I missed in our summary that you would like to bring back up?
Yeah. So not in the summary, but can I add my Jedi mind trick?
Yes.
And I know that you talk a lot about the inner voice and the inner critic and how to deal with that. So one of the tools that I use with my clients is I have them close their eyes and think about the last time they had that inner voice, that negative voice, and to actually notice where that voice is coming from. Is it to the right, to the left? Is it behind you? Is it above you? And then this is a way of manipulating the inner dialogue that messes with our subconscious brain. It kind of scrambles it up. So what you can do is you can actually imagine moving the voice to a different place. And you can imagine like sending it out off into the distance and slowing it down. I've had clients where I just like go slow motion and say the sentence that you say, but really slowly, or speed it up, or make it a Mickey Mouse voice, or add a song to it. What that does is it completely loses its emotional charge. And then it's just, we can detach from it and we can let it go when we mess with it a little bit. So it's a fun way to play with that inner dialogue and be able to disidentify from it.
Yeah, I love that because that also is to push it out. When does it quit causing that pain? How far out do you need to push it? And just the process of it slowly detaches it. So yes, I love that trick. And I've never tried it with the fun voices. So next time I'm going to speed it up and talk like Cookie Mouse or something. So it will be fun. It will be a fun experience. And the whole thing about loving ourselves is allowing ourselves to have fun, allowing ourselves to make mistakes, and just getting back up and keep going. And I think everything you've talked about today has just been in that allow yourself to be who you are, set your priorities, set your goals, and we can move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are humans with human brains that do crazy things, and not making it a problem and not making it mean anything about ourselves, and recognizing this is totally normal to have really unhelpful voices in your head sometimes and really challenging emotions in your body. And I think the more tools we can have to navigate through our human experience with a little bit more grace and a little bit more compassion and a little bit more self-acceptance will radically improve the quality of our lives.
I read a book and I was trying to think while you were talking who it was from, but by the time the episode comes out, I'll put it in the show notes. But it talks about there's not good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It just is.
Yeah.
And it's how we respond to it that creates positive and negative things in our body.
Exactly.
So if we look at it as this isn't bad, it just is, it takes away that pressure.
Judgment too, yeah.
Yes. And so I used to have that on my wall at work. It just is. So when things would start like, I'd look, it just is. It just is. We can make this. We can do this.
Yeah.
Frederick Dodson is the person.
Okay. And that's a yogic teaching that everything's empty. It's not good or bad. It's not negative or positive. It's just empty, and it appears according to how we see it. So it's like the lens that we look through, we color it in a certain way, but it's all empty. It's all neutral. And when you can get to that place of neutrality, that's so empowering, because then you can just decide, how do I want to feel about this?
It's not just empowering, it's peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
You can breathe through it instead of stress through it. And yes, so peacefully empowering. Oh, Donna, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a complete pleasure. I've learned tricks. The listeners learned tricks. This is really awesome. So stay tuned for the next episode. You know that after our interview, the next episode is a challenge. So stay tuned.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.